Mojang is lazy. At least, that's what everyone online seems to think. And to be fair, the game does look pretty simple. Are the devs really lazy? Well, I decided to answer this question once and for all by remaking Minecraft for myself to see just how hard it really is. So to start, we have to go way back to the very first version of Minecraft. Alright, here we are. It might look like Minecraft, but nope, it's actually just called Game, and we have the privilege of playing on the world's tiniest window that you cannot resize. But if you get over the tiny window, you'll see that there's not a lot going on here. You can place cobblestone and break it, and that's pretty much the entire game. Check it out though. This video gets 10,000 likes, I'll do a base tour, so make sure to smash that like button. But yeah, this game is pretty bare bones. I just got stuck in the ground and I can't see anything. To start, I downloaded all of Minecraft's textures, which included not one, but two pictures of SpongeBob. But ignoring that, I set up grass and cobblestone blocks in my game. With these blocks in the game, all I need to do now is copy and paste them until we have a platform like this. So I got to work, but once I started the game, I realized this was gonna be a lot harder than I thought. I really wish I had better footage, but these blocks made it so laggy that I could barely look around, and my computer was not having a good time. So somehow my computer can't handle a flat grass platform, but actual Minecraft can create an entire world that runs on a phone. If I want any chance of creating a successful remake, I'm gonna have to make some big changes. So I got to work. First off, since most of the blocks are underground, we can write code that says if the player can't see the block, then the game doesn't have to render it in. Getting this to work sucked. I don't really know how to describe what's going on here, but it's not good. But once it was working, it did make a huge difference on performance, and you could actually look around without your PC blowing up. I also wanted to add the ability to place and break blocks, so I coded it in my game. Holy shit, it worked. I was not expecting that to happen. I definitely wasn't confident in it, but it worked, so who cares? I also wanted to make my game highlight the block that you're looking at, like this. My solution for this was to just make a white cube that's slightly bigger than every block, and then we just slap that cube on top of whatever block you're looking at, and it worked. But with that, we've successfully remade the very first version of Minecraft. So technically, I can say that I remade Minecraft by myself. But let's be honest, this game sucks. And if the goal of this video was to find out how difficult Minecraft is to make, just making the oldest version of the game won't cut it. So to answer this question, I'm gonna have to make a way later version of the game. That's right, you guessed it, we're gonna be making version 0.0.23a_. After playing this version of Minecraft, I came up with 5 major features that I'm gonna need to add to my game, and I saved the hardest for last. So the first step to making this version is getting our flat grass area to have hills. Here's the plan. We look at our area from above and slap this thing on it called purlin noise. Then we write code that says the blocks in the black area should be a little bit higher and the blocks in the white area should be a little bit lower. Also, we can change this seed here to make sure we have a unique world every time. There's more to it than that, but that's the main idea. So let's see if it worked. Nope. So I tried again, and I'll just play my raw reaction. No way! Oh. But finally, after some more failed attempts, it turned out looking pretty good. I was really happy with it, so I decided to build a house to celebrate. Obviously, it's not much, but it felt really cool being able to do this considering where we started. And yes, I'll do a base tour if this hits 20,000 likes. I also changed it so that instead of the ground being cobblestone, it was just regular stone, which took like 2 seconds. Since getting hills to generate was kind of a pain, I decided to work on particles next, since I hoped it would at least be a little bit easier. Also threw on the face cam for this part. Not really sure why. It took a couple tries, but it was honestly way easier than everything else. I'm not counting them as a major feature, but it did definitely make a difference in how the game felt. I don't really know how to describe it. It just feels more Minecrafty like this. With that working, I decided next it was time to add sand, which I was prepared for it to be pretty difficult. We can use the same trick with purlin noise from earlier, but I had to mess with the code for a while until it would make the right amount of sand. That's not perfect. Until we got this, which I felt like was a pretty normal amount of sand. I regenerated it a couple times just to make sure everything was working well. And it was. Which means that now I want to add water. And here's where things stopped going so well. Not what I wanted to see. Oh, shit. serious? How does this even happen? Finally! Oh my god. After many more attempts, I got it to look right. But we're still not totally done. I wrote some new code to allow you to swim instead of just walking on water. And I also added this blue tint that comes on whenever you go underwater, since that's how they do it in Minecraft version 0.0.23a_01. And this looked good, but I still didn't like the steep cliff or the fact that there was no sea floor. So they were pretty small changes, but I feel like they made a huge difference in how the water felt. But with that, the water's done. So we can move on to our fourth major feature, trees. I started by putting oak logs at random points around the island and worked on it until we had just a couple. Then I changed it so that each stump would spawn a pillar of wooden blocks with a random height. But unfortunately, this is the easy part, and adding leaves is gonna be a lot harder. When I say that everything went wrong, I mean it. First, the leaves turned my entire world gray. Then they spawned as these black boxes. They also spawned as stripped spruce logs for a little bit. So close. To fix this, I had to change the way I use textures in my game. You know what? After getting distracted for a bit, I got these leaves in the game. But if we go back to Minecraft version, I don't feel like saying that anymore. But we can see that those trees look nothing like mine. So to make the leaves in my game look better, I made a couple changes like taking out the corners and adding these blocks on top. I ended up writing some of the worst code I've ever written, I'm serious. But the trees looked pretty good. After this, I wanted to do something a little bit easier, so I decided to add the hotbar, which I'm not counting as a major feature since it's pretty easy. As you can see, it definitely doesn't look as good as Minecraft's. So this should place wood. Okay, this should place stone. Nice. Dirt, wood, cobblestone, sand, gravel. And now that we had these new blocks in the game, I was able to make something that I am very proud of. Say hello to my mega base. If this video gets 30,000 likes, I'll do a base tour. Alright, so now that we have all this stuff in the game, it might seem like the remake is done, but we're still missing one huge piece, and I know it's going to be one of the hardest things to add in the entire project. We need to make caves. Getting the world to generate up to this point has been 2D. I've just been doing a couple layers of stone and a layer of grass or sand at the top. But caves don't work like that. You can't just do a layer of cave, which makes them way more complicated. Looking at some of the caves in Minecraft today, I have no idea how they did that. So I got right to work. On my first attempt, no caves spawned. On my second, we got this weird stone area on the surface with nothing underground. From there, things got a lot worse. What? Oh, it is totally breaking the water. This is literally the only cave. We're back to having nothing. Things were going horribly. I spent a lot of time just trying random things and hoping that it would work. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Until I got this spawn, which wasn't really what I wanted, but it was close. And after that, I felt like this was actually possible. After messing with it for a little bit longer, the shape of the caves was looking really good. But we're still not finished. We still need to get iron and gold to spawn around the map. And after my first attempt, I could tell I was in for a treat. What the fuck? Getting it to spawn was pretty easy, but getting the right amount to spawn was a lot harder. But eventually, we ended up with this. And I know it looks like a lot, but with all the stone in the game, it's really not as abundant as it seems. So this is a pretty good amount, and I think it'll work. I barely had to make any changes to get gold to spawn, and with that, our remake is 99% done. Technically, I am missing one tiny detail. This last detail is so small that you might not even notice it's missing. But even though it's so small, it's gonna be one of the hardest things to add. We still haven't added mushrooms, but adding these won't be as easy as just adding another block because they're not a block. But since I didn't really consider this earlier, my entire game just assumes everything is a block. So when you try to place it, yeah. But I think any reasonable person would agree that for something as insignificant as mushrooms, it's really just not worth the effort to add them at this point in the game. But I'm not a reasonable person. I want mushrooms in my game more than anything I've ever wanted before. I need them. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be worth it, but I'm gonna do it anyway. First, I made the model. I kinda messed it up, but this does look pretty cool. Then, I made the textures. And when I started the game, it was huge, but it did look right, so I can definitely fix this. And a few moments later, it worked. I have to be honest, it wasn't as hard as I thought, so I might have hyped it up for nothing. But that's besides the point, because now the remake is complete. So now I can finally answer the question. Are the Minecraft devs really lazy? Hell no. This was super hard, and it made me realize that even though Minecraft looks like a simple game, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. So there you have it. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If I hit 300,000 subs before the end of the year, I'll post my bare feet on YouTube.